Alright, this video is about fire and water and Freemasonry and teachers. I respect a few of them anyway. And I was going to stick with 3 topics, but I'm going to add why I teach you is number 4, and my GoFundMe page is like 4B. And why I teach you would be like 4A. I threw that guitar up behind me, so if you see my videos, and they often look pretty much like this one, or me driving, so you can tell the difference. And I have this stylish hoodie on too. It's really awesome. So fire and water. So, and this is obviously, you know what fire is, more or less. I mean, if you look at fire, you know what it is, and you know what water is. Even though scientists can't really explain water, its existence is kind of that defies their understanding. But that's not my point here. My point is the analogy, the esoteric or the sacred translation of fire and water. So in the Catholic Church, they have the holy water, which you hope somebody blessed it, and you put your hand in it, you put it on your forehead, right? Yeah, that's holy water. And there's fire, and fire as it pertains to spirituality, and I didn't rehearse any of this, just literally says fire and water. But fire and spirituality is would bring to mind maybe, you know, passion, obviously, or maybe restraining the passion, such as one of the motifs of Ashtaroth or Ishtar, maybe, or burning people at the stake, you know. You didn't want the water, you have the fire. You know, they give you a choice. And the fire is the knowledge, you know, like your ministers and your priests and whatever, doesn't matter what religion you're part of or what belief system you adhere to, if you choose to adhere to one or more. There's the people who are behind the scenes of that system have a lot more knowledge than you, and or than they give you. So they have the fire, but they give you the water. And the water is to quench the fire, is to quench your thirst for knowledge. And these are analogies, but they're also like they're very real, you know. I mean, they do give you the water and the rituals to placate your desire for knowledge, and it's the repetition of that ritual which people find comfort in, and I don't blame the people who choose water. It's just that wasn't my path. I'm Johnny Firewalk. I used to stand in the fire, literally. My high school friends are like, what? When they see what I'm up to now, they probably didn't expect this for me, or maybe they did, but they don't say much to me. I post my videos on our reunion page, and yeah, they're just like, I don't see anything. But the fire is they say that they, being whoever, you know, esoteric experts, people who know things, you know, that have wisdom, that have the wisdom. You know, if you come here for wisdom, then you're at the right place. If you came here for something else, then you know what I'm about. And if you don't, then now you do. They say that God requires only faith, and the devil requires research or study. God requires faith, and the devil requires study. And that's just ridiculous. But that way of thinking is why our religions have, our Christian religion, I was raised a Christian, and our Christians have such a low, they have very low knowledge of their Bibles. And then, you know, they're like, oh, the whole world is a church, I don't need to go to church. And it's like, no, you don't. You know, I don't call myself a Christian. I'm very, very honest with you guys about my spirituality and my experiences, because I couldn't even think of any lies to tell you that would be more amazing and unbelievable than the truth. So I tell you the truth. So maybe I'll leave it there with fire and water. Fire burns, but you can drown in water. You know, because you're not fulfilled, you know, and that's you know, the plan has always been for religions to fail, and but they had to fail very slowly. So like, I met with my minister for a year or two on a pretty regular basis, and she told me some of the hidden meanings of things, like turn the other cheek. You know, people are always quoting turn the other cheek, like that means you're supposed to just like get stomped on, you know, open your borders, you know, that's what Christians are doing right now. Western nations are majority Christian, whether they're strong Christians or not. They'd say, well, I'm a Christian, you know. They wouldn't say, I am a Christian, you know, I'm a Christian. So they're like letting people walk on them because that's the teaching that they're giving at church, and that's the type of instruction that they're taught to give, you know, like the sermons are basically agreed upon ahead of time. The ministers are sent, oh, this is what we're working towards, and God knows where these sermons, these generic sermon motifs are being sent from. It's just, it's repulsive. It's repulsive. But turn the other cheek actually means, the literal translation pertains to like being a slave. Like if someone, what does it say? If someone strikes your left cheek, give them your right. So let me think. So your left cheek or right cheek, give them the left. It pertains to a backhand. You know, if somebody bitch slaps you or disrespects you, to make them hit you with the other hand. You know, to not turn the other cheek like, oh, beat me again, master. You know, it ain't like that. And it doesn't mean open your borders and let us walk on you because your religion predicts your own demise. And that's one of the things about Christianity too that people don't get. First of all, the rapture is not in the Bible. Someone had a vision, and she said she had a vision. For all I know, she was, you know, planted there, and this whole story was concocted. But some woman had a vision, and she saw the rapture, and she told her priest about it, and all of a sudden it became part of the gospel, part of the teaching, part of the understanding. Whether or not churches discuss it or not, I don't know. But yeah, that's not, so they make that part of the teaching and part of the understanding, you know, like the Left Behind series. You know, it's just terrible. It means you're supposed to, like, onward Christian soldier, you know, like, you know, you know that saying, you give them an inch to take a mile. Well, that the interpretation that they're teaching, or that people understand in their ignorance, which is what is the groupthink and the superficial layer of religion and belief that most Westerners and Christians are living upon. And it's false. It's straight up like a lie. Like, it's not even my opinion. This is like what the Christian leaders know. You know, give them an inch and they'll take a mile. You know, turn the other cheek. You know, like, give them an inch and then, no, they'll take an inch and then you give them a mile. Turn the other cheek. Let them walk on you. Let them crush you. You know, be tolerant. Permit the crushing of your culture, of your people. Permit the low quality education. Just turn the other cheek. Turn the other cheek. Let them take an inch and then let them take a mile because you're a good Christian. Does that sound like something that Jesus, were he a flesh and blood person walking on this earth, does that sound like something that Jesus would say? People would be like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Why don't we just sell our souls while we're at it, you know? Sell our souls to conformity, you know? Jesus was a nonconformist. That is not what he would say. He wouldn't say that at all. He didn't he like grab a stick and beat the bankers with a stick, you know, flip over the tables, you know, like that's what Jesus would do. So, you know, but they don't want you to have real faith. They don't want you to have real knowledge. They want to control you. You know, when I say that people are slaves, it's not an insult, you know. Like, if you can't get past me telling you that you've been lied to while I'm telling you the truth, which you can verify with a little bit of effort, then you're a slave, and you're choosing that. You're choosing the ignorance, you're choosing the conformity, and I don't respect that. God will tolerate it from you. He won't. He's not going to like pat you on the back at the end of the day, you know. All right, Freemasonry. So somebody yesterday had a complete brain spasm when they listened to my Who Am I video and saw that Freemasonry was involved. And this is a interesting thing for me personally, because my experience before being a Mason, you know, paying dues and doing my thing, and then what actually was one of the main factors that ended me being a dues paying attending members, all tie into the ignorance, just the lack of knowing. Like, ignorance means not knowing. Like, people who don't know the facts and the statistics, and they believe the opposite of which they are shown in the media and in political correctness, that's brainwashing, and that's conforming, and that's a control system, and that's all it is. And they're just lying to you because they can, and they're really good at it, and most people don't even have the option of knowing where to turn for something resembling the truth. So you know, I love God, God loves me. I ended up crippled, and these are my life experiences, and if it wasn't for all these things happening, I wouldn't be broken down, feeling like, well, at least I can be of use to the world, you know, and not be a useless drone. So this is why I teach you. So before I joined, the reason I joined the Masons is, you know, I'd come across it a little bit in my studies over the years, a very little bit. People would think that, or some of the Freemasons thought that I studied it quite a bit, and if you're not a Mason and you study Freemasonry, it's called a Cowan, C-O-W-A-N, I think. And I mean, the information's all online, so I don't think anybody faults anyone for looking at it. But to form your opinions based on a religion or a belief system or a fraternity or a group based on what you read online by people with agendas or whistleblowers who we don't even know if they were ever part of it or not to begin with. That's it's not necessarily ignorance, but it's not due diligence to form an educated opinion. But back in 2000 or 1999, whenever it was, when I taught Dan in the cave, I taught him about an element of some secret societies and reincarnation. And even though I would honestly say to you that that's not, that I don't attribute that now to Freemasons. There's too many other fraternities that you'll never hear of, in sects and in groups that are not Freemason. But Freemason is like the catch-all. It's like the scapegoat of like all things conspiracy theory, and it's actually kind of sad in a way, to be honest with you. So, but because Dan wrote the Lost Symbol, and you know, made me a 33rd degree Mason, which is just 33rd degree. All right, this is how Masonry works, okay? You ask a Mason to join, you fill out a request, you go and meet the guys at the lodge, be sure you want to, you know, go forward, and then you go through 3 degrees, and this is the Blue Lodge, your basic Freemasonry. When people say Freemasonry, they're rarely talking about Freemasonry. You know, when they say, oh, 33rd degree Mason, that's not your Blue Lodge. Your Blue Lodge is entered apprentice, your fellow craft, and your master Mason, the 3 degrees. There's 3. At the Blue Lodge, at your basic Freemasonic lodge. See, the only things that I did take a vow to keep secret the what occurs during the rituals, and if I told you it was like fascinating and I'm withholding information that would be beneficial for you by not telling you those things, I'd be lying to you. So you know, but I joined because I wanted to, you know, I like knowledge. I study everything, so that's why I joined. And yeah, if I could find some camaraderie and brotherly love, that would be great. I didn't find it in the music business. I found jackals. I didn't find it in the massage therapy business, where I thought I would find people who want to heal other people. I found a lot of narcissistic, superficial people who had the high school mentality of cliques and things like that, and that didn't work out too well for me. So I tried Freemasonry, and it was good. Former teacher of mine from high school helped me go through the process, and I enjoyed it. I was having a decent time at it, and unfortunately I fell during my 3rd degree, or soon after or before, I can't remember, and ruptured my neck here, my C6 disc. So that can be surgically repaired, but then I'd get adjacent segment syndrome, and since I'm an anatomy geek, it's one of the things I know a lot about. Adjacent segment syndrome, if you have a surgery on your spine anywhere and you get them fused together so they can't move, then the ones above and below have to do that much more of the moving, because these two are fused. They can't bend, they can't move, they're screwed together, stapled, nailed together, and they can't move. So then the next one wears out because it's doing that much more moving to compensate for the one that can't. So no, I don't want to have a neck surgery. Migraines stink, but not having neck surgery. So the way people look at Freemasons, I knew more probably, and not that much. I really didn't look into it that much. I just joined for the knowledge, the camaraderie, the brothership, the brotherhood, the friendship, and I think it was soon after I became a Master Mason in the 3rd degree that I went to the chiropractor, and my chiropractor, I'll call him out. His name is William McQueenie, and he was working in Exeter, New Hampshire. Now he works at Exeter Elliott Hospital, doing outpatient physical therapy. You've seen the video of me with the long hair. You know, he would make comments about my hair, and make comments about my tattoos. And he'd make comments about my Freemason ring and tell me how he's Catholic, so he doesn't like Freemasons, And during one session, he's like, "Oh, I don't have any... Oh, there's no difference between treating a broken back and a regular back." And then he used a technique which you're supposed to use on the thoracic, the twisting and pressing down to adjust the back, and he did that right over my broken back, and where the bones are broken at T11, T12, and L1, 25% anterior wedge compression fractures, and I got ruptured and bulging discs also. My L5 C1 disc is completely gone. It just exploded in my body and disappeared, took off. So yeah, he pressed down, and I, made clear my pain, and then he rolled me on the side and did another move. And when I got off the table, I mean, it was searing pain. When I got up off the table, my legs buckled underneath me, and that was about 3 years ago. In July, this coming July, it'll be 3 years. So he crippled me because he didn't like Freemasons. So yeah, and he made comments about my older daughter's, she had her hair colored at the time, and he didn't, he just, because I'm poor, people think that, like, relatively poor. Personally, I'm poor. My insurance is really bad. People oftentimes think they can disrespect me, that I'm just white chair, that I'm just garbage, and that's hilarious to me, because by all rights I should be a multimillionaire, and then all of a sudden they'd have like all this respect for me. But anyway, so as a Freemason, there's a lot of there's a lot of hate towards Freemasons. Yeah, so that girl yesterday, she was like, "Oh, 33rd degree Masons, they can keep secrets." And I was thinking, well, everyone can, but who's this 33rd degree Mason you're talking about? And she thought it was me, and that therefore, like, by virtue of being a Freemason, that I'm misleading you, or like working for some kind of a cabal. I don't even know what she was getting at, but I know how people think, and I didn't think about it until I posted the video. And it's just the hatred towards Freemasons is really, really pathetic. It truly is. And but after he did that adjustment, I was unable to sit long enough to I couldn't sit in the chair at the lodge. I was a senior deacon, and when I got up, I limped something awful. I mean, it was really, really bad. It was really bad. It is really bad. It's crippled me. That guy crippled me because I'm a Freemason. So if you want to have a problem with me because I'm a Freemason, I mean, I don't even know if I am technically. I stopped paying my dues because I'm poor, and I can't sit because someone broke my broken back because I was a Freemason. So that gives you a clue. So yeah, there's the Blue Lodge, and that's the first 3 degrees I told you about. And then should you become a Master Mason, you can choose to go you can stay in the Blue Lodge, which is really important in Freemasonry, because people tend to venture off into the York Rite, which has like, what is it, 12 degrees, 7, 9? I haven't researched any of this in years, so something like that. It's like 12. In the Scottish Rite, there's 32 degrees, and I haven't gone either of those directions. I just stayed in the Blue Lodge until I had to retire. And yeah, so Freemasonry, you know, they sell hot dogs, raise money, they run the Shriners Hospital. They do a lot of good, and they used to be a fraternity called the Odd Fellows, and they had this little creed about how they're like kind to each other and, you know, good to each other, and how that makes them odd fellows because they showed some humanity for each other. And that's an older fraternity. I don't know much about it, but I think it kind of shows one reason why someone might want to join a fraternity and be part of it is there's not really many places for people to be accepted and to, you know, be an equal. And yeah, so is that all I have to say about Freemasonry? Yeah, it is. So number 3 is teachers I respect. You know, esoteric or UFO teachers, that kind of stuff. David Icke has a few 6-hour videos on Amazon, and if you watch one, you'll get the gist of most of what he talks about, but they do vary. Just like my videos, there's always going to be some overlap, especially with my style of talking, which is not super on topic, but David Icke's worth checking out. And not in a bad way. Like, I don't know, he's a weird topic. I could go on about that, but I'm not going to. There's a guy named Michael Tellinger, I believe his name is, and he does some really good work with the kind of like the European Druid style of knowledge. And when we think of Druids, you probably, I don't know if you think anything at all, but if you're an average person in the group think, you probably think about putting people in bogs, you know, like people just like being in the bogs, and you know, because they pulled some, I don't know, some corpses or mummies or whatever out of the bogs a while ago. I don't know, but that's like, you know, that's like saying Christians, the Crusades, or, you know, the one thing you know about something. Like, you know one thing about it, so you, like, know something. Like, you know one thing about something which may or may not be true or have any truth, and you don't know any of the reasons behind anything, then you don't know anything about it. So if that's what you know about Druids, you don't know anything about them. There's 2 kinds, basically. One's the artist, and one is more in commune with nature. One is called the Bairds, B-A-I-R-D-S. But anyway, he does some good work, and that's kind of like what I associate with him. Corey Good, I think for a lay person, he probably has some decent information, and the takeaway that I think of when it comes to him is that ET is here, and they're here to help. And something about blue orbs and the blue avions. I don't know, maybe that's who he talks to, or I don't know. I'd like to talk with him, to be honest with you. David Wilcox, again, as a lay person, he's interesting. It's not that well known, but back when I was introduced to these particular teachers was in 2008 or 2009. Well, not Corey Good. That's more recent, I think. But David Wilcox, Tellinger, and David Icke. So David Wilcox did like 300 readings for free in the right kind of area where doing that will make you the right friends, maybe, or maybe he just reincarnated in the right place. He kind of alluded to, or somebody did, I think it was him, at least at one point, he alluded to being the reincarnation of Edgar Casey. And that may well be the case. I don't know. And there's a couple of documentary series that are really important. Like the most important one is The Century of the Self. You really need to check that. The Century of the Self. It's basically how psychology was used to brainwash people. Very literally, to brainwash people, to put ideas in your mind. You know the movie The Breakfast Club? The Century of the Self explains like the propaganda. It ties in with The Breakfast Club, you know. Choose one of these. Are you the jock? Are you the nerd? Are you the geek? You know, who were the other ones? Was there a freak? And then there was the criminal Bender there. And of course they had to do the opposites attract thing, where the prom queen had to get with the criminal because he was mean to her, and she was so used to being treated well that she was just thrilled to have someone treat her like a real person and be rude to her. So they fell in love. You know, it's like Beauty and the Beast. You know, like they can't just be like, you know, the good people should hang out with each other. You are who you hang out with. No, they're like, these are the 5 types of people. Which one are you? And you all know that you associate with one of them. You know, I kind of associated with like 3, but whatever. You know, like Century of the Self just explains how, just think, Sigmund Freud's nephew, I think it was his nephew, he worked with some advertising people and said, no, he didn't say anything. He helped create images, like the LL Bean image. Like, that's a good image. If you can afford to wear LL Bean clothes, you should, because, you know, you should, because people will judge you based on how you look. And I learned that really well. I mean, I've been really lucky in some ways to be poor, you know, relatively poor and overweight and just like at the mercy of the world. It's given me a great view of how people are. And without this knowledge, I wouldn't be able to teach you, because you don't want to find out for yourself. You don't want to find these things out for yourself. Some of them, just take my word for it or don't. Basically, I've been through the fire, so I can quench your thirst for knowledge. You know, like I can teach you. You know, they say learn from the mistakes of others, learn from the experience of others. And I don't know who made this phrase to brainwash people, but the response is, I want to see for myself. And it's like somebody who's just like fallen down 2,000 flights of stairs is like, hey, you don't want to skateboard right here. And of course the kid, you know, the knee-jerk response is, I want to find out for myself. So the kid spends his next 20 years falling down every friggin' stair in the world. Then he lands at the bottom and he makes this video. You know, I wouldn't listen. So you know, you want to avoid these pitfalls. But the century of the self, like every image is made, like this car is for you, you know, like if you have a Toyota, you've had a Subaru. If you have a Subaru, you've had a Toyota. It's a type of a car for a type of person. Then look at the high-end cars. You know, it's like this dude looks like James Bond, you know, super rich, probably a stockbroker. He works at a bank, you know. Like, that's the image that they're selling. You know, the Volkswagen bus, you know, what does that bring to mind? You know, maybe Scooby-Doo, even though that was like a cargo van. But you get the idea. You know, if you wear a jean jacket, you're a rocker. You know, if you have long hair, you're a hippie or a freak or, you know, a mountain man. You know, they'll say mountain man, or they'll say you're shaggy, which is like because of Scooby-Doo. That's how smart people are, you know. Like Shaggy, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy. Like, you call someone Shaggy. Oh, look at that shaggy dude. Yeah, and where's Scooby-Doo, you brainwashed moron, you know? But that's what they do. That's one of the many ways they control you. It's going to take me forever to teach you all the ways that people are controlled, and I will. But the century of the self really shows that the image that you're like trying to, you know, I mean, look at my image. Do I look like, you know, do I ever look like, I don't know, I'm like no name brand, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to buy into an image, but if I was going to, if I could afford it, if LL Bean wants to sponsor me, or what's the other one, like North End, you know, like those are just like upstanding clothing companies. Like, you don't want to shop for your clothes at Walmart. You're better off to go to a secondhand store and get some real clothes, you know, get like some respectable clothes. The image does matter. Until the world changes, you know, I'm just telling you the rules of the world. I'm not telling you I'm telling you I think it's wrong, but this is how the world works for now. Until we end it. What does that have to do with David Wilcox? Nothing. I guess this is under Why I Teach You. So I teach you because I taught Dan Brown, and you only know that he exists because I taught him. And that billion-dollar industry, which exists because of me and would not exist without me, and those movies and those books and all that. I think Dan lost his checkbook because he's got like carpal tunnel and he can't write or like type with more than one finger, and he can't type numbers, so he hasn't paid me yet. And I am half crippled, so I do have my GoFundMe page. Go ahead. Whose side? Somebody decide. I know somebody's side. I know I'm supposed to just teach forever for free, and I will. I mean, you can, if you can afford it, you know, not get a pack of butts for a day or two, and you want to help me out, that's great. If you don't, that's okay too. You know, like where I'm at in life, I would be like, oh, I'd love to, but I can't, you know, like I just can't afford it right now. But in reality, if I wanted to, I could probably give someone $5. I don't know. I have, but that was a loan, never paid it back, so whatever. I guess it was a gift. So I have a GoFundMe page. If you liked the lost symbol, or you liked, you guys still haven't read, none of you have read the lost symbol. I don't know why. I know you guys are thinking about it, some of you, but you gotta actually start reading. You gotta like open the book and like begin reading. And hey Dan, I'm promoting your books. Of course I'm promoting myself as well, but these are good books. If they weren't good books, I wouldn't promote them. Just like I wouldn't promote these other guys. I'm just telling you the truth. So, yep, I stuck with my 5 topics, which probably only turned into like 10 or 20, which is pretty good. So, Century of the Self is important. It's an important series. It's like a 4 or 5 part series on YouTube. And it's not my video, so if I ask you to share it, does that mean nobody's gonna like lecture me about how I should be if I want you to share things? It's not mine. There's nothing in it for me, except for the world being a better place because you guys start to understand the control system. Because the people who run the world, they're tired of it. It's too easy. It's too easy. You know, you guys got to take the. And I'm helping you here. I'm trying to be of use to you. I'm trying to serve you. Yeah, so maybe I'll post that in the whatever. So yeah, this is the guitar video. That's the prop, so you know it's not what video it is, whatever. Because you know, I all look the same, all of me. Except for when I don't. Alright, see ya.